All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And I now call to order the 2149th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council.
We're ready to go.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is now 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. I now call to order the 2149th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Tonight's meeting is a special meeting because we get to hear from just about every single department head and their dog. Are we going to get a dog here? About going into the going-ons in their departments this month. Emmy, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Jessup.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza.
Present.
Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman. Present. Councilmember Boyle. Who is it? Okay, right. We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, it's time for public comment. Did anybody submit for public comment in whether it be written or
No, ma'am.
ahead of time? There's not one lost. Okay. If anyone in person would like to speak during this public comment period, please raise your hand now. All right, seeing none, and there's no one in virtual attendance at this time? Okay, then I'm gonna move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda for tonight, November 12th, 2024, approving the council minutes from October 22nd, 2024, and the September 2024 financials. Are there any items any member of the council would like removed from the consent agenda this time, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Jessup, there's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. We have two presentations on the agenda tonight. First, I will read the Small Business Saturday Proclamation. All right, proclamation. Whereas small businesses are the backbone of our community, fostering job creation, supporting public service, and enhancing our quality of life. And whereas when we support small local businesses, we support our friends, our neighbors, and local artists. And whereas small businesses generate $68 of local economic return for every $100 spent on them. And whereas 65% of Americans' shopping budget is still spent in store, and where 61% of Americans shop at local businesses because of their unique product selection. And whereas local businesses generate 70% more local economic activity per square foot than a big box retail. And whereas businesses fewer than 500 employees account for 99.7% of all U.S. employers. And whereas small businesses employ 58.9 million people. And whereas 56% of workers at locally owned businesses have high commitment scores, and whereas small businesses donate 250% more than larger businesses to community causes, and whereas more than a quarter of small business owners are immigrants, and whereas 48% of overall growth in the U.S. business ownership is attributed to immigrant business owners. And whereas over $9.3 billion would be directly returned to our economy if every U.S. family spent just $10 at their local business. Therefore, be it resolved, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, do proclaim November 30th at 2024 as Small Business Saturday. And I appeal to our residents of College Place to shop locally this holiday season and help build a more vibrant, sustainable economy by keeping our dollars circulating within our community. All right, thank you. Next, Ms. Colwell has some proposed changes on the indigent defense caseload standards.
I'm gonna come up here because it's gonna be a long meeting. Maybe I won't come up here. Okay, so these are not my proposals, but what is happening is, as a city and the crimes that we charge misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, I call them misdemeanors. We have to provide indigent defense with an attorney to defend in every case. Currently, the maximum amount of cases a defense attorney can take for misdemeanors is 400. The Supreme Court of Washington is the one who sets those rules, and they have proposed decreasing that to 120 by July of 2027. So the first jump is scheduled for July 2025. Now, before we get any further, I'll say they proposed this. This was a recommendation from the Bar Association that went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, we are going to adopt this. Everyone, public, tell us what you think. There's a lot of strong and well thought out opposition to this, be it the numbers or the time frame. But I pretty much would wager everything I have that it's going to pass. That they've already told us what they're going to do, and they're not going to step back from that. So what does that mean for the city? Right now, we have one contract defense attorney who handles most of the indigent defense cases. She has contracts with another jurisdiction because she can take up to 400 cases. And then we have a conflict attorney that we pay by the hour. And we spend about $73,000 a year, I think, is what I can gather right now on that. With the new caseload standards, if you want to pull up the memo, yeah, and go to page 2. We have actually, if you look at the total column, we have never surpassed that 400 caseload cap. We are actually projected to charge 393 cases this year. That's based on what we've charged already. That's a 50% increase from last year. And if we put in those new caseload caps, we're looking at what we would need. And when I say FTE, you think, well, can't we just hire another attorney? Well, the rules that have been proposed require the local agency to compensate the public defender the same as a prosecutor. And so that means their salary, benefits, overhead. That doesn't really apply to me because I don't do prosecution full-time for the city. It's just part of my gig. But if you look at what Walla Walla County pays for their district court prosecutor and what the city of Walla Walla pays for their district court prosecutor, we're looking at about anywhere from 163,000 a year to 169,000 a year. The problem beyond the money is the attorneys. We don't have attorneys in Washington State to fill this. We don't have those here in Walla Walla. There aren't enough defense. There just aren't enough. So something beyond hiring someone has to be done. Otherwise, we can't bring these cases. They won't have a defender. So for example, Benton County, the prosecuting attorney's office, they would have to basically, they looked at the attorneys that are available to them in the Tri-Cities. They would have to hire basically their entire prosecution office as additional defense attorneys to meet this. And they're just not there. So this is the first introduction to you. I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer. But I think it's going to have to be, just logistically, it's gonna have to be cuts in charging. Realistically, that's what's gonna have to happen, I think. Any questions? What's that? Reduce the volume.
Of what we process.
If we fast forward today into 2027, there just wouldn't be an attorney to do the work. Or the money.
Any questions, thoughts, comments? Councilmember Williams?
So I understand that if these case reductions go in, that there will be a much higher cost to the cities. However, do you think that if the lower caseloads go in, that there would be more attorneys willing to take on this work?
No, just simply because of the time frame. There just aren't, there might be more willing to come. They won't do it for $73,000. That would violate the rule if we hired another one for that amount. They have to move, if they'd have to move here, buy a house here, which is very expensive. I mean, arguably we could buy them, right? If we had unlimited funds, we could say, okay, you know, we're gonna pay you $250,000 a year. We might get our 3.4 that we need. I just don't think they're there. We might get some, but we're gonna compete with the city of Walla Walla and the county as well. And then another thing I should note that I did not adjust in this table is I am sure the prosecuting attorney, the county prosecutor, is going to decline to file felony charges for a lot of cases. An example is King County has a dollar level that they will charge felony theft. And I think it's like 15,000. You have to get up there to get to a felony. So all those cases under that go to whatever city it happened in. So if it happened in the city of Seattle. So if we have a $2,000 theft from Home Depot, the county prosecutor is likely not going to charge that. It's going to come to us to charge. So this is even an artificial low amount.
Low amount of cases.
Right.
Councilmember Peterson?
Is this, yeah, this gets down to a breaking point at some, I mean, obviously, we're talking about College Place, Tri-Cities, and yeah, you brought up the, Seattle and whatnot, so it's probably, yeah, multiplied. I mean,
Yes.
we're looking at this now. We could be hopeful that it reaches a breaking point and the laws are changed.
I suspect, I'll be honest, I suspect it's a combination of we want the state to fund criminal defense because they don't, or very, very minimally.
Yeah.
And that I do believe there's a faction that we have too many crimes on the books and we don't want to prosecute these crimes. So this is a way to do it. And people there have been advocates for this that have spoken that publicly.
And you say that at a state level when that
Yes,
comment.
yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it will just be impossible. We can't make enough attorneys to fill what we as a state, as a jurisdiction charge.
I mean, this is coming down to what we've seen, taking politics completely out of this, let's say. But this is what we've seen, I think, in other areas around the United States. California, I think, was an example I saw where, yeah, just non-prosecution of items that should be prosecuted, and what the fallout from that, but then eventually the public reaction to that and the changing of laws, and but that, yeah, we're in a fairyland here, is into looking into the future. So yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna have to do? We're gonna have to.
I think we're gonna have to
back up on the pedal.
Yes, definitely. I think that there might be avenues to explore to prevent crime. I think it was Gig Harbor, if I remember correctly, I sent the article to the city administrator and the mayor where, and this has problems of its own, which I won't even get into that part of it, but local retail, because retail theft is a huge thing right now. Local retail will call law enforcement and say, we have this person that we suspect might be going to steal, or we suspect stole before. We want your presence here so that they don't steal this time. And there's no theft and there's no crime.
I'm sorry, we just passed a much more aggressive enforcement of shoplifting, didn't we?
We did. We
This
did.
runs counter to that.
Not necessarily. I mean, we're talking about preventing a crime from happening. You know, if there was a law enforcement officer at Walmart 24/7, would we have less thefts? We might. I'm not saying that's the answer at all. I'm just saying that everything I think has to be on the
But
table.
what we changed was the fact that you could have, I remember we looked at that and it was like
Mhm.
first offense 0, 0, second
Yep.
offense 0, 0. Fine time, fine time,
Yep.
fine time.
Yep.
And then we altered that,
We did.
but that's part of what's gonna come back on
Well,
you.
hopefully, when those sentences start being imposed, and maybe it's already helped
deterrent.
because we made a bit of an announcement that it would be a deterrent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland?
Lauren kind of asked part of my question, which was like, is it possible the law is going to be changed? It sounds like you're saying that like those that are in power in the legislature are thinking, no, we have an agenda. This is the reason we're doing it. And it's a way to prevent enforcement of certain crimes. It would require a change in the legislature, certain people in order to get this fixed, essentially.
It would require funding. It would require some sort of avenue to have qualified attorneys.
I was meaning like
Magically
reverting the
appear.
law. Back to
No,
the-
I think our Supreme Court is the one that makes the rules about caseloads, right?
Oh, okay.
And technically, we don't necessarily have to follow the caseloads. But if we don't, all of our cases are going to get overturned on appeal because our attorneys were overworked. And now that it's come out of the court's mouth, this is what it should be. This is what the Constitution means. I just don't see them walking that back. And I don't see the legislature doing that. The legislature could decriminalize some things. So,
We need a change in the state Supreme Court in order to walk this back, essentially.
yes, but I doubt that will ever happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that just won't happen.
Well, then my other comment here is that if we are looking at a drastic reduction in what we have the capacity to prosecute, I think it'd be a good idea to develop some sort of prioritization of what are we going to prioritize over others. But yeah, that's all I had.
Councilmember Sherman?
No, the only question I had was when you were talking about having law enforcement, 24/7 at Walmart. It's like, that's just as expensive, right? If now we're gonna staff law enforcement to police every business in town. So I don't know, Mike will probably get us some grants for these things, but yeah, this just seems pretty, to quote Mike, wacky.
Kind of, yeah, like maybe defeats the purpose a little bit.
A
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
So what, like, I mean, I understand, like, they want everyone to work a 40-hour-a-week job, and I would also love that for myself. But what, I don't understand like the end result, but that's okay. I won't, it's probably good that I don't understand how the Supreme Court of Washington thinks, maybe. I don't know.
It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
I think that was something that oh my goodness, what are they called? The ones who recommended it, the Bar Association.
Yes.
It backfired on them, right? This recommendation kind of backfired. Weren't they hoping they get more funding instead?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I assume that they think we're gonna get funding and it's not going to happen.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call on, Councilmember Jessup, but I just needed to check. Councilmember Williams, do you have your hand raised again, or is it still up?
Again,
Okay, so Councilmember Jessup and then Councilmember Williams.
So I had a couple of questions with the intent of understanding what's in the locus of our control. So for example, you're saying we don't have enough attorneys and so on and so forth. Are we projecting the profession itself is not, we're not seeing them come out? We're not seeing lawyers and such come out through projected in the next couple of years? Are we thinking Washington State? And the purpose of that question is kind of like, within the locus of our control is the incentives or help me understand what strategies or things we can do.
Mhm.
But I don't know if there's even something which we can do to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I imagine it will correct itself at some point, but I just don't see how it can happen quickly. They've already kind of put in place someone who can do defense work that actually isn't a member of the bar, but it still takes years to get that implemented and done. And I will tell you, if our defense attorney we use now was straight out of law school, I would be doing prosecution 100% of my time. We just work so well together. If she has a motion that she wants the court to hear, she comes to me and says, what do you think about this? Here's the law. We've disagreed like 3 times, right? But if we get someone out of law school, they're going to be following the rules, right? Which we just do our work. So, yeah. I will tell you, there are a lot of cases that I dismiss, whether it be a first-time offender and there's an explanation, or they're cooperative with law enforcement. There's clearly a mental health issue. I can't prosecute them. So there is room there right now. Almost all the citations are cited by law enforcement directly into court. Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Williams, I apologize for not seeing your hand. Thank you for your patience.
oh, no worries. Those were good questions that people are asking. But I do still have 2 questions. One is, so is our current public defender contractor, or are they our employee?
They are currently a contract, and we saw this coming for a while. And so I've applied for and gotten 2 grants from the Office of Public Defense. One went to increase the rate for our conflict attorney because he was like, this ain't enough. I'm going to Walla Walla, or I'm going to, right? Which the grant was required to be additional spending it couldn't supplant. And then the next one was for simple possession. When it went from being a felony to misdemeanor, they knew that we would have more cases in district court, so I applied for that. And now we pay our public contract defender under a separate contract for drug offenses under a different rate, and it did not supplement what we're already paying her. That was kind of a executive decision to kind of cushion this blow a little bit. That money is around for another biennial. But other than that.
Good.
Okay. And then you have another question?
Yes, my second question is, it looks like our pre-charging diversion has just been going down, and I'm wondering what happened with that and if there's anything we can do about it.
I don't have an answer for that. That would be law enforcement, Chief Tamaris. Matters that go to that law enforcement aided diversion program when they're charged usually come through a referral from the defense attorney. And then if they're successful in that program, the case is dismissed. So I don't have an answer for you for that.
Okay.
I will tell you that 3 attorneys have reached out to me to say, if you hire someone, we want to work with you and we want to work for city. So And we've tried to reach out to the city of Walla Walla and the county to see if we can't, not compete against each other for these resources, but that really hasn't gone anywhere, so.
Yeah. So that might be something, that, Mike, that we could follow up with the police and see if there's, if it's that we aren't finding these kinds of people, that's fine, but I'm just wondering if there's some sort of, roadblock that we could do something about.
For sure, I'll get information from police chief.
Thanks.
I have one quick question. So is there any chatter, I suppose for lack of better words, of potential funding with our new governor?
I have to say, I haven't paid much attention to the governor's race, except for a few issues. I know that he was big on funding additional law enforcement for communities. I do not know about public defense.
So they haven't said, yeah, he stated about putting more funding into prosecution and judge,
Okay.
all the judicial kind of
yeah.
thing, or justice system. But I was just wondering,
I haven't heard anything, but Mike and I have our thumb kind of on the pulse.
yeah,
Right now, we're just
so
waiting.
it's probably, All right, any other questions or comments?
Councilmember Williams.
Councilmember Williams?
Sorry, that one was a forget to take my hand down.
Okay, and once we have news, I will keep you updated, especially if there's any funding coming out.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate this heads up. Okay, public hearings. We have 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight. First, Mr. Carlton. Sorry, I just read the speech. Mr. Carlton will take us on an exciting journey presenting the 2025 revenue and property tax levy, and then we will proceed to a hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you bring up the presentation on the revenue sources?
Oh, that's different.
Yeah. I'll go through the revenue estimates first. This is just a continuation of what was presented in the first budget presentation about a month ago. Some of the key assumptions we've taken in the major revenues is we've assumed that interest rates we're expecting to decline somewhat going into 2020 at 2024 levels. Therefore, we've been really we've gone light on the interest rate calculations in the budget at this point. Commercial and residential projects, we're expecting to move forward. I know we've had that in the budget the last few years, but we're hoping they're going to go next year. We're recommending when we get to the property tax section, no increase for 2025. That will leave us with a 3% cumulative carry forward. If you're wondering I'll talk about the 1% when we get into the property tax section. The interfund transfers aren't included here. We will be receiving a full year of the tax benefit district. That's the 0.1% sales tax that went in. It started about May of 2024. We also have in 2024, we have the TIF bond revenue proceeds. That was the $8.8 million that we received at the end of October, with most of that funds carrying forward to next year. And we are also recommending a 10% utility tax on stormwater utility. That'll make it the same as our other utilities, and that helps support current expense. Next slide. I know we can't read this. It's fine. I'll just go through some of the key points. Most of these numbers have stayed the same since the original presentation, but just to go through key highlights, sales tax, we're showing a small increase for next year, although based on our forecast for this year, we are showing a slight decline from 2023 actuals. We're just, being conservative on those estimates. The B&O tax, we are showing it going up slightly. That's a result of the stormwater utility tax. Other ones you can see with the major changes, that's the column I'm focusing on, the second column from the right. $396,000 positive variance in the building permit fees expected in 2025. And also a few of the other line items that relate to that new development. One is the planning and development fees, an increase of 403,000. Miscellaneous revenues, we're just keeping it conservative. It's down slightly from 2024. And the GMT, we moved to the ambulance utility back in 2024, or I think it was 2023, actually. You can see based on our road fund, those estimates come from MRSC, and we use those numbers on a yearly basis. They're showing a slight increase in revenues. Our real estate excise tax, we're showing a increase, expecting for property sales to go up next year. You can see by the 2024 forecast, we're down from the prior 3 fiscal years rather considerably. And then we have our transportation benefit. You can see we had budgeted a full year in 24, although we were expecting it to go in play in January and it didn't go in until May. So we're anticipating at $260,000 next year. Total in the water revenues are going up slightly. The increase is currently at 3% in the water, and that's coming from the 2022 rate model. The wastewater revenues, you can see they're up 195,000, again attributable to our wastewater revenues. We're showing a slight decline from our forecast, but up from 2023. So I think the 2020 forecast was a little maybe optimistic. We're showing a similar level to 2024. The stormwater revenues, we're showing a slight decline from what's forecast for this year. But again, we drove the numbers from the rate models in 2022, and this will be the last year we can use those. So we'll need a new rate models for next year. All in all, you can see we're showing a $1.75 million increase in revenues in 2025. A majority of that attributable to the development that we are expecting to happen next year. That's it for the revenue piece. Into the property tax. So property tax for this year, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Do we need testimony first, or can we
Oh,
do 2 separate hearings?
these are the same hearing.
It's the same one, so I think we can continue.
You can see our valuation is going up by $28 million next year. That's information provided from Walla Walla County at the end of October. They're showing a 2.46% increase. In that component is the new construction of $10 million. Just a trend here with a little graph at the bottom. You can see how the assessed value has changed over the years, gone up considerably in that COVID period, and it's sort of leveled off the last couple of years. Next slide. The new construction, this number is provided by the county. They're anticipating it will have $10.3 million in new construction next year. And that results in an increase in our property tax of just over $12,000. This is the new construction and showing the trend over the last 14 years. You can go down to the graph. You can see how it's the county's not anticipating an increase from this year and down from years past. And here's a graph that's showing the relationship between the change in assessed value and the property tax change. You see a couple spikes there. The one in orange, that is the CARS project valuation that went in. Remember, that was a voted bond that is charged on the property taxes. And then in 2024, we have the I believe that's the, I'm just blanking for a moment.
Yeah.
I believe that's the TIF. The levy amount's broken down in two components. It's broken down into a general fund, which you can see the 2025 levy and what the amount would be. Without an increase, we'd be getting $1.655 million. That results in per $1,000 of assessed value. Because that assessed value is going up with time, increasing more than our increased percentage in the revenue, that our levy value per thousand is going down. So you can see in 2024 was 1.44 cents per $1,000, and next year 1.41 cents per dollar. The other component is our CARS project bond levy, and that is going down considerably next year. As you know, when we did the TIF bond, we also refunded this bond, and it's saving us about between $25,000 and $30,000 a year. So that number is going down. So the net result is a decline in property taxes for College Place next year. That's our portion. As you know, we're only approximately, this year will be at 2.2 cents per dollar is what we get from property taxes, but that 2.2 cents is down from 2.3 cents. So it is a bit of a savings. The combined levy calculation, you can see the change in assessed value, and that is the savings in that first, without the 1% increase, it's a savings of $15 on the average value of a home in College Place, which was $409,000 based on Zillow. A 1% increase would still show a decline, but only $9.28 for a house valued at $409,000. And again, here is our dollar of how the property taxes in the county are allocated. A large portion is school. I believe it's over 50 cents per dollar. And ours is 2.2 cents. So that's it for the presentation on the revenue and the property tax levy.
Okay, now I think I need to go into public comment. I'm just trying to see here. Yeah, oh yes, we gotta ask questions. Thank you, Heather, but I'm just trying to find that there was a explanation of how to go about this, but Heather's right. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
See, this is why I was glad we didn't skip the question period. I don't have any either.
So you can blame Councilmember Sherman for the extra 45 seconds we're going to have to be here tonight.
Well, we'll do it again after the next one.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to look like thought I had a document on the process of public hearings, but I don't. Okay. So at this time, we're going to open the public hearing. Mary Elizabeth, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
And no one is online.
no one's online for virtual attendance. Okay. All right, is there?
Oh. There is somebody. There is somebody.
Okay, so
Hey.
if there's anyone in virtual attendance that would like to speak regarding the property tax levy and the 2025 revenue that was just presented, please raise your hand. If you're *9, will raise your hand if you're connected by telephone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. This is Angie Peters, College Place resident. And I just have a question to clarify my understanding of what I saw in the presentation. It looked like we were going to raise like a stormwater tax rather than raise the levy for property tax. And I may have misunderstood that, but if that is what is happening, is that not a little bit more of a regressive way to address revenue generation?
Next, not early. I'm just joking. I'm just joking because I know Miss Peters. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Carlson, do you know the answer to it?
Well, one of the ways of, it's kind of a trade-off. Either you tax it all or you pick and choose how you're going to tax. And we definitely need more revenue in current expense. And the amount of revenue we get from the 1% increase in property tax is quite negligible. Whereas the stormwater utility generates more revenue for current expense and makes it the same as the taxes we're charging on the other utilities. Both water and sewer have a 10% utility tax.
All right, Mr. Rizzatella, you want to
Yeah.
add to that?
Yeah, one thing I would also argue as well is that really when you do utility taxes on respective utilities like water, wastewater, and storm, a lot of times you're supposed to have them in utero or in harmony, where all of them are the 10%. Now at the time, this is going way historical, but 1718, when it went from 6 to 10, storm didn't exist. So it was just the ones that existed. Now, back when stormwater utility was undertaken, at the time, previous mayor just didn't want to deal with it at the juncture because we were doing the new utility. But the fact of the matter is, when you're dealing with water, wastewater, and stormwater, others like seeing it where you have essentially the same percentage across the board. So that's the general gist there. And then again, to double down on Mr. Carlton's point, in this state, your various levers when you're coming up with shortfalls and incurring expense, there's hardly any lever. Utility taxes, one of the only levers. So thus the general inclination to have all that in utero.
And with the utility tax, that covered what we needed, so therefore we didn't need to do both property taxes and utility tax. Okay. Ms. Peters, did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
All right. Are there any others online?
There are not.
Okay. And there's anyone in council chambers that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
That's Councilmember Cleveland. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, the second was Councilmember Sherman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. And the hearing is closed. Sorry. Next, Mr. Carlton's going to present on the 2025 preliminary budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the presentation. Okay, this is the second iteration of the budget. There hasn't been too much change. But to go through the key assumptions, we've kept these key assumptions as our core principles for going through the budget: conservative projections on revenues and expenditures, maintaining our core services, investing in critical infrastructure, addressing staffing gaps and competitive wages, and continuing obtaining grants and funding opportunities. Next slide. Since the presentation on October 22nd, We've updated a few of the payroll costs. One change was our arborist was originally in the parks and current expense was moved to stormwater workers. That saved current expense a bit of money. We reviewed the salaried exempt positions to abide by the 2025 state salary threshold amount. That means that we are now above 51 employees and there's some minimum requirements required for salaries for non-exempt employees. There was 2 people affected by that, so their wages have been adjusted accordingly. They also updated the incentive pays for the police department. They were originally based on an estimate, but now we know the actual, so that's in there. All the interfund transfers have been reconciled and balanced. We've also reconciled all the opening and closing fund balances and reconciled capital requests and associated funding mechanisms. Next slide. Here we sit right now with the proposed budget with the beginning balance of just under $24 million. Revenues at 76 million, expenditures 82 million, leaving an ending fund balance of 17.7 million, a drawdown of $6.2 million. This was a change from the first presentation in that we are showing an additional $444,000 in ending fund balance, mostly attributable to a couple of grant revenues that we received that weren't included in the original budget. And then a few other changes here and there. Just overall though, the drawdown of that $6.2 million, a large portion of that is the drawdown from the TIF projects. That's 6.1 million. Additionally, there's a drawdown of 479,000 for water projects and city share of grants, and a small drawdown in stormwater of 349,000 for city's grant share on capital projects. The next slide. This was the slide I was asked to present. You could see the ending fund balance by year. You can see in the forecast for 2024, it's up considerably. That is a result of the proceeds received on the TIF bond of the $8.8 million, of which we're only anticipating spending just around $2 million this year, and then the rest carrying forward to next year. And then the resulting drawdown in the funds, you can see a slight drawdown for 2025 budget. Here's the budget summary. Not a lot of change from the first presentation. You can see for current expense, we are showing a increase in fund balance of $364,000. That's helped out by a few grants that we're getting, and also the increase in the utility tax on stormwater. This is a good point. You can see in the very first row, the ending fund balance just over $2 million. Originally, we were at about 1.7 million. The good part about that is when we went through our bonding process, S&P gives you a rating for the city. We are at AA+. One of the comments they told us, it wasn't in writing, but they said they'd like to see our current expense above $2 million. So this puts us in that shape. So I'm quite happy about that. Some down to the major funds, you can see in the capital reserve funds, that 300 series number in about the middle. You can see that there's the drawdown there. I highlighted in the tax increment financing 360, the drawdown of just over $6 million. That's the bond proceeds that we received this year that will be expended next year. The streets fund, a small increase in ending fund balance of 89,000. The water fund, you can see a drawdown of $479,000, a lot of projects going there next year. And some of those grants, they do require some of our own skin in the game. So some of that money is drawn out to support those projects. The total wastewater fund, you can see is doing quite well. They're showing a positive fund balance change of 409,000. Stormwater, you can see that drawdown of 349,000, again, associated to capital projects. The ambulance utility, very similar levels to last year, but keeping a good ending fund balance of 527,000. Overall, you can see we're at a $17.7 million ending fund balance. But if you go back to the chart, you have to take this year's anomaly out of the comparisons because of that TIF money. And you can see the trend for the last 3 years has been rather consistently above that, between 17 and $18 million. The next slide is our contingencies, and we're all in compliance with all of our contingencies that we have in our financial policy, except for our current expense reserve fund, which we put 100,000 in this year, but next year we're not showing any money flowing into that reserve fund. But based on the calculation of 10% of current expense budgeted revenues, we do fall short on that. But then again, that is a target and not a requirement in the policy. Next slide. I threw this in to show everybody where we're at on our debt payments. And you can see based on the 2024 principal balance of $20 million, our payments next year will be, just over $2 million in debt payments. The next slide is our staffing, and no changes at this point. Everything, we're still in negotiations for the non-union exempt, figuring out what that percentage is going to be. Other than that, minor increases in health insurance of 4.2% for police, all their other employees at 7.3%, with no other increases in the additional coverages. You can see on the left-hand side, the positions added in this year's budget are a senior planner, although that is grant funded. The arborist, also grant funded. Our IT manager is, our IT analyst is getting moved to IT manager, adding a police lieutenant, a stormwater worker, and a financial analyst for taking care of all of our grants. I won't go through the capital extensively, but a large amount of capital expenditures next year totaling $55 million. And I didn't include the detail at this point, but you can see a large majority going split between streets, wastewater, water, just a lot of projects going on. Next slide is our equipment replacement. We're expecting to spend just under $1.2 million on equipment replacement. Lot less than historically we spent, but got to keep up with that vehicle replacement. The next slide is our IT costs at $352,000. That's going to come, I don't have the number from this year, but I know it's significantly lower as will be fully implemented with Tyler system and won't have those one-time implementation costs. The next step, I'll continue to review and update as necessary. We'll have a second budget hearing on 11/26 in 2 weeks. And we've talked about bumping up our budget ordinance approval to the 26th at that same meeting. Mike's here for that meeting and he'll miss the 10th meeting. And by my measurement, the budget's pretty much complete at this point, unless we find something major. I just have to go through and confirm all the capital projects are in properly and have the appropriate funding mechanisms. But that's about the last step to finish.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
That's Mom. Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland, none. Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson.
So, I've listened and I've watched in interest as cities in the state of Washington, I think, yeah, Yakima in particular is having a huge budget shortfall for the city. And there's others. I mean, some of these are, the dollar amounts are pretty staggering in some cases. And I think it goes back to our comments here, maybe a few weeks ago or more. The plague funding that came through, people, built on that and hired positions and did whatnot. I guess assuming that that would continue or that they would figure it out. Our exposure, and I think Mike, you've already told me this, but I just need to hear it again, I guess. In the budget right now, we don't have much exposure, do we, to temporary funding in the past that's not going to continue in the future. That is some of these other cities, which has caused them heartburn right now.
No, we don't. I mean, what with the American Rescue Plan money, we use that to cover for majority of cover capital projects, and then also equipment replacement. Where if we didn't have that money, we would have had to do bond issues like with the fire truck. So it was one-time revenue for one-time expense. So there is no exposure on that.
And I gotta say, as a corollary, that I thank you guys for your diligence and not. And looking at that and understanding that and not allowing us to get into that situation. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Councilmember Williams.
No questions. I am very excited to see us be able to be early on our budget and in good shape, because it hasn't always been that way. And so I appreciate all of your hard work.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Was there?
No. Oh,
Councilmember Lang?
oh no, she said no questions. Okay. Okay. So at this time, I'm gonna open the public hearing. Mary Elizabeth, did anybody submit a comment in advance?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. If anyone in actual or virtual attendance would like to speak, please raise your hand. If you're attending via virtual attendance, *9 will raise your hand if you're connected by phone. No, just wanted to make sure I give Ms. Peters time just in case she had a question. Okay, so hearing none, is there any additional discussion by the council? If there's not, is there a motion to close the hearing? Councilmember Peterson, is there a second?
Second, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you so very much. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
I just want to make sure she heard it, everybody. Did you hear everybody's vote? Did you hear everybody's vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the hearing is closed. There's 9 items on the action items on the agenda tonight. So up first, Ms. Colwell's gonna present on a memorandum of understanding with Walla Walla Community Court.
Again, this is good news. Walla Walla District Court, which handles our criminal prosecutions and traffic infractions and civil infractions for us on behalf of the city, got together with stakeholders and applied for a grant to develop a community court and received a grant and has been over the process of about a year, probably about a year. We've all been meeting to basically create a community court, an alternative court to the regular straight, we're going to trial, you're pleading guilty, we're dismissing it, or that type of thing. And I know I threw a lot of information about community court in the packet, and I know it's a long night and I'm not the coordinator. And so I can answer some questions, but if you want the coordinator to come in and give a presentation, she's amazing. She can do that if you want. But the good news is that the city of Walla Walla has agreed to serve as the prosecutor in this community court program on behalf of the city. So if a case gets referred that originates in College Place and is sent to this community court program, you don't have to pay for the prosecution service because they're going to do it for free. And it's for consistency through with the program, not having one prosecutor saying, you know, let's kick this person out because of X, Y, and Z. Although it is a very structured program, we have consistency. The prosecutor is going to do it. Her name is June Riley, and she is, I think, amazing. I hired her as an employee when I worked in Columbia County. She's been working with the city of Walla Walla for quite some time now. But basically it's high intense probation, treatment, wraparound services, in exchange for dismissal of the criminal case. Candidates are ones that are suffering from homelessness, substance abuse disorder, mental health disorder, veterans struggles, things like that. That's the target person to get out of the system. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Who makes up the community court?
So it's the county, the city of College Place, the city of Walla Walla. The city of Walla Walla has contracted with a public defender. They have not asked us to pay for that. So, you know, fingers crossed that they will pay for that as well. All they want in exchange is if June needs assistance, that I will be there to assist. And to attend the staff briefings where we talk about the cases and make sure that I'm represented as the city's represented with me there.
So we would prefer, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. If we refer someone to community court, who do they go before?
So they'll go before the district court judge. Right now we have one docket a month is when we handle cases. This will be twice a month or every other week. And then they have to meet with the community court coordinator every week. It's high intense UAs. If you show up late for court, you now have community service, a lot of accountability, reward, punishment appropriately. The case will get screened in by June Riley or screened out. But if I disagree with her or the city disagrees with her, we have an avenue to go back and say, no, we don't want this. No domestic violence crimes right now are going to be referred. No DUI crimes are going to be referred, and no sex offenses are going to be referred.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Does this relate to the caseload conversation we previously just had?
It does not. It does not, other than we might have our current defense attorney is not the person that's going to be handling community court. It's actually our conflict defense attorney is going to be handling our community court. So she won't count that case, but there's a max load of 25 cases in community court. So it's not going to make a big dent when we're talking about the county, the city of Walla Walla, and us.
Thanks.
Councilmember Cleveland, no questions. Councilmember Espinosa?
Is there a cost savings by going this route that you anticipate for the city?
I think the cost savings would be in the success of any graduate. The program is modeled after a national program that's implemented throughout the United States. It's a very successful program. I asked our coordinator today what the success rate is in Benton County. They've been doing it for about 8 or 9 years. And she didn't have that figure for me, but it's based on a model that's successful. So hopefully it will reduce the cost of recidivism. We're right now not paying anything for that community court at this point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Councilmember Peterson,
Nothing.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No question.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there's no discussion, do we have a motion on this? It's a resolution.
A motion to adopt resolution 24-076, approving the memorandum of understanding with Walla Walla City Attorney Office for the Community Court Prosecution Services and authorizing mayor to execute.
I'll second.
Great. Councilmember Boyle was a second. Any discussions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Did you hear?
Yes.
You got online too? Okay. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. McAndrews accompanied by Mr. Reed, who will dazzle us with the holiday light contract RFQ.
Thank you, Mayor. Miss Reed was unable to be here tonight, I understand, so I think I can handle this for her. I was there for the bid opening and helped her a little bit put this together. So, historically, Public Works has handled the holiday light decorations set up and take down every year. Timing for it is not great as it's, starts to happen pretty soon. And it's right as we roll into full all hands on deck for leaf pickup and other public works activities that are important. So we looked into contracting this out. Miss Reed put together a RFB and we went out to bid for the services. We had 2 bids. It was Marino Castillo Construction and I believe ESF Solutions. The other bid was kind of outrageous. It was $90,000 or something like that. So we were expecting it in the $20,000 range, and Marino Castillo came in at $26,628. So at this point, I guess I'll try to go over what I think they're doing. I mean, they should be hanging all the lights and banners along College Avenue, putting up lights here at City Hall. I believe it includes decorating the Christmas tree. And then maintenance of the holiday lights throughout the season, and then taking everything down, putting it away, and switching the banners over to the spring banners in the spring after the holiday season. So it really is a lot of work and it's time consuming. So I anticipated the bids being pretty close to what this one is. So I don't think this is a bad deal. I guess I'll open up to any questions.
I think this was a great idea. And first, my apologies to Miss Reed. I believe I called her Mr. Reed. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
So this ends with the spring setup and takedown?
Yeah, since they'll be taking down the holiday banners, we included, we'll just have them switch over to the spring banners that are on the light poles on College Avenue.
So there's an end date there of some point, so they're not putting up 4th of July stuff.
Nope.
And yeah,
Nope,
so it
correct.
ends.
They'll take down the fall banners and put up the
Christmas.
holiday ones, yeah, and then take the holiday ones down and put up the spring ones.
And then it terminates then.
Yeah,
Oh,
correct.
okay, thanks.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
Are we gonna add like a singing Santa Claus or anything to the roof of our council, City Hall?
Not that I'm aware of.
Dang. Dang,
Wow,
plan on it, plan on it.
Well, that depends on your singing voice, Mayor, and how good you look in a Santa outfit.
All right. On that note, is there a motion?
Councilmember Williams, I will move to approve the proposed holiday lights contract with Marino and Castillo Construction for the city for $26,628.
I'll second.
Second,
Councilmember Cleveland was a second.
I don't know, I think Heather might have beaten me out.
Is there any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, thank you, and big relief to your crew for sure. All right, next, Mr. McAndrews and Mr. Hintz will join us tonight to answer any questions about the proposed amendment number 9 with CH2M to cover wastewater treatment plant operation costs for 2025.
Thank you, Mayor, and I will apologize. I didn't get this updated in time. I had originally asked Mr. Hintz to join us. Royce Davis from Jacobs is here in his place. I believe Royce is his supervisor. So anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Appreciate you being
Yes.
here.
So yes, this is, as I think you're all aware, we've done this every year for the last, I guess, 8 years, I believe. We've had an amendment for the contract with Jacobs or CH2M for the maintenance and management of our wastewater treatment plant. This year's amendment is for an increase of about $25,000, about 1.8% increase. Pretty insignificant. We've had larger increases in the past. Pretty much keeps everything as is and allows Jacobs/CH2M to continue operating our wastewater treatment plant. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Davis. If you have anything to add, feel free to step up. If not, that's fine. Okay, just hit the button and the light will turn green.
No, I think, again, Royce Davis, Mayor Hernandez, council members, city staff, Royce Davis with Jacobs, just had the opportunity to tour the College Place wastewater treatment plant the last couple of months. Very impressed with it. And I think one of the main things I think College Place is different is just the staffing. You have an experienced staff, which is hard to find this time in wastewater treatment. So I think with the new amendment and the contract and the staff, it looks to be a good year. So just stand for questions if anybody has them.
Thank you. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
What are these amendments again?
So this is for our overall contract for Jacobs to run our wastewater treatment plant. And so the original contract was put together in 2016. And so there's been an amendment every year adjusting the costs.
So we just add to the contract every year by $1 million or so. That's what I'm asking.
No, it went up by 25,000.
25,000.
And so it's been over the years, there's been changes because of additional equipment or things like that. It just, the cost of operating.
It's a
things
raise
goes
to
up,
cover the
so-
costs. Yeah.
$1 million.
It's so complicated in this world. Just, it's a raise to cover the cost. That's all we have to.
You gave me a little palpitations there when you said increase by $1 million.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
So this whole process has been really, since its inception has been good for us. It's been the monitoring, the elimination of some of the letters from the state and shortcoming. This is this whole process, right, that has really covered this, and you guys have been on top of this as far as eliminating potential fines and inquiries from the state as far as shortcomings or testing or what, correct?
Correct. And that's the goal is, permit compliance,
Yeah.
for the entire year.
Yeah,
Not perfect, but
No,
that's the goal for sure.
it's gone okay though.
Yeah, and I think, as you guys make investments in the infrastructure and upgrades and things like that, it all helps.
Yeah,
Helps
great.
as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you. Appreciate your hard work.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
All right, Well, Mr. Davis, thank you so much and thank your team for all their help and their contributions, keeping maintenance up and keeping us running and out of trouble.
Keep things flowing. Yep, you're welcome. Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep things flowing. There you
Things
go.
flowing, yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, council members, any additional discussion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign amendment number 9 to the agreement for operations, maintenance and management services for CH2M to operate the city's wastewater treatment plant.
A second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion is passed. Next, Mr. Carlton is getting, all right, sorry. Mr. Carlton is getting his big moment to tell us anything else about the 2025 revenue and property tax levy before it is written into law.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion relates just to the property tax levy resolution. We're asking for you to approve it as stated in the detail. We are recommending a 0% increase in property taxes for next year. The resulting is $1.655 million in general property tax, with 14,997 from new construction and $447,000 in bond related collections, for a total of $2.103 million.
Is that it?
That's
Okay,
it.
just wanted to make
Well,
sure.
We went
Okay.
through the presentation before, if you want me to go through the presentation. I
It's
can.
related to that prior, no, I just want to.
That won't be
I didn't want you to go over those numbers again.
I
Before he does,
I know you
Councilmember
love the
Jessup,
numbers.
questions or comments? Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, any additional discussion? Oh, excuse me. Aside from saying thank you very much for all your hard work on that, we pick on you a lot, but we know it's a lot of work. And a lot of time, a lot of thinking, so thank you very much for putting this all together for us in a way that we can understand it. All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 property tax levy resolution number 24-075.
Second, Peterson.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next, Mr. Rizzatello will close out the action items for the night. Wait, where am I at? Did I miss one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at 5:05, right? Okay, but those, okay, well, for the action items, okay. Oh, I see. We will close out the action items for the night, but not for another 5 more presentations
Wow.
first. I know, it's like, how am I confused here? What am I reading?
I won't do this with your script anymore.
You easily throw me off.
She said she might need to, she said she might need to start reading it beforehand, but this is way more fun.
All right, so first is the 2025 state legislative agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So the state legislative agenda went over it at length, the past workshops and meetings. So the crux of it is for the capital priorities, the reservoir, trying to get some additional money on that. Same with the community center, because we're trying to fundraise that with a variety of state, federal earmarks and grants. Also, we're trying to socialize the State Route 125 and College Avenue reconstruction and really get development going west of it and then across the highway. As time goes on, we're able to expand. State was planning to turn that into a roundabout and just trying to get that bumped up and separated from the other ones. So that way we can get development going. Otherwise, they won't let off the lane connect to it. And then 12th Street starting to really have that discussion. That's the next federally classified road that needs to be fixed up. As far as policy issues, just making sure our core grant funding programs, they continue to throw money into it. New fiscal tools for housing development, Main Street program, childcare access, money for that. And then general government language around Public Records Act, Open Public Meetings Act, and things of that nature. And then public safety and human services. Really tying into the whole issues that our city attorney discussed about the whole issue with public defenders, prosecutors, all of that. Because we do, on a call I was on with other city managers and Association of Washington Cities, we do believe there might be a pathway for getting more money out of the state because this was like I'll just say a misguided attempt by the courts and others trying to make it like how other states like Illinois do it, where Illinois actually does pay for all of the public defense, and they're trying to use this to lord it over a state to basically make them, and then it backfired. So that's the general gist there. But yeah, that is the state agenda in a nutshell, and I'm just seeking to get this in a federal one adopted sooner, just because they're already starting to get money put in. So we're going to start talking to our legislators, get these projects in, and also our lobbyists identified another pathway through Office of Financial Management where you can like shove projects in the governor's budget. So we're going to start doing that too. So yeah.
Tell all our secrets. All right.
Oh, Mike.
Hey, they don't know who with OFM, so. Yeah.
Right, exactly. All right. Council,
Yep.
let's go through council members. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland?
Is there any future consideration for funding of a police station? Something that we could shove on there at some point?
So that is on our federal legislative agenda. I didn't add it to the state one just because if you look historically at where they put money, sadly it isn't police stations. However, with the most recently elected Congressman Baumgartner, we do believe there is a pathway to be stacking federal earmarks and so forth. So you'll see that in the federal agenda.
Thank you.
Councilmember Espinosa?
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions, please.
Councilmember Williams?
I really appreciate these, and I think when I actually go back to work in January, I'm going to put them up so people can see, what kind of projects we're actually working on getting funding for. Mike, I sent you some very minor formatting suggestions, but I have no questions on the content.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
Right. No additional discussion? If not, do we have a motion on this resolution?
A motion to approve resolution number 24-077, which adopts 2025 state legislative priorities for the city of College Place.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, Mike, you got marching orders there. Next is the 2025 federal legislative agenda.
Okay, thank you. So attached, you'll see a federal legislative agenda really to drive home the need for the feds through congressional directed spending of funds. Some of our key capital projects, you'll notice the formatting and this is quite a bit different. Instead of going in a policy, it's more so project basis. So asking for additional funding for community center replacement, the water tower, which we need for storage deficiency, and then also 12th Street, and then the police department building. With the earmarks year to year, you can stack them up and build them upon themselves. So that is the pathway, at least as of now, moving forward on that. As far as you may notice why the ask is like lower than the project itself. Generally, how these federal offices work is if you ask more than 3 million, they just throw you out because that's considered above their threshold. The sweet spot is anything 3 million and below. So that's why you'll see the differential between the request and the total amount.
All right, Councilmember Jessup.
This is my pure curiosity. What research do you do that knows what the sweet spots are on these things? Like, that's obviously a historical data crunch.
Yeah.
So that's just some sort of like historical data crunch that kind of sees the people who are successful are generally around 3 million or below.
There is a congressional directed spending website, plus all the congressionals put out a list of who they funding at one level. And if you look at enough of them, there's a trend line down what the sweet spot is.
It's fantastic.
So
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland.
When was it that we first started using lobbyists? Is that something we've always done, or is that something?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Is this pretty typical to have lobbyists or from?
It's getting to be, because really up until about 4 years ago, they just had your traditional grant programs, and that was really a luck of the draw, although frankly a lobbyist would have helped on that. But what really drove it to where we needed it is that they brought back the earmarks. Now they call it something different so people don't think it's the same, but it is. It's congressional directed spending. And I mean, pretty much with those congressional directed spending requests, it boils down to what is the benefit, how good's the project, and then how often are you bugging your congressional. So that's why you need a federal lobbyist, because if you aren't bugging them, then first of all, it gets like shortlisted on this like master list that goes to a committee. And even there, if you don't continue to like haunt them, it could fall off of the list. So it is like a major lift to get the money. I will say, in all the years that we've had it, the last 3 years, I mean, we're battling it where every year we are getting CDS requests of some sort. First year was wastewater treatment plan for $3.5 million. The second year was Majania Road for $2.5 million. And then this last year, it was getting the reservoir in the Army Corps bill, and that was around like 5 million with the well for 2.5 million. So
Is there a trend of more cities having lobbyists, or there's
Yeah.
more competition? Oh, okay.
there is a trend of cities having more like lobbyists, but I will say the thing that's key is to have someone who worked with a congressional, and that's the key.
Okay, thank you.
I would add to that when you're making these asks, you really have to, for the lack of a better word, sell yourself to the first level of was it the staffing?
Yeah.
And for them to recommend it to the next level, to then fight for it at the next level, to make the recommendation to the legislator. So it really, the federal lobbyist has really been helpful in guiding us in that.
Yeah.
And has been make us quite successful that way. Gotten us indoors that I don't know we would have gotten to.
Exactly.
Councilmember Espinosa.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
Sorry, I clicked the wrong spot. No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No question.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
Mike, I have a question. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out answer, but do you foresee, or are you hearing any chatter, as I like to say, any changes in what might be, appropriated or what Congress is going to be able to support?
I'm
Any
here.
changes with the change in administration?
I'm actually hearing that potentially more money could flow through these channels as opposed to the traditional grant program. So it's going to become even more important to bug people.
So it gives them more control.
Yeah.
I got it. All right, any additional discussion? All right, is there a motion?
Sure. I'll move to approve resolution number 24-078, which adopts 2025 federal legislative priorities for the city of College Place.
Second.
Great, Councilmember Boyle was a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, so we're going to go on to the 2024 City Safety Program grant, which brings streets and sidewalk improvement to Southwood, Davis Street and Whitman. And Mr. Rizzatello, you're going to continue with that.
Yep. So this was an adopted local road safety plan and a complete streets plan. Because we have that, it opens up additional doors of money from State Department of Transportation. This is a 0% match, so it's a 100% grant. So basically, this will be putting pedestrian lights down Whitman from Adams, which is where the lights terminate on the west side of the college, to Davis, and then lights down Davis from Whitman all the way down to 6th. And then also put a sidewalk down Davis from 4th to 6th, and then redo the pavement from 4th to 6th. It's like all messed up on the wider portion of Davis. So that's what the grant will pay for.
All right, we're gonna go for questions, and Councilmember Jessup just stepped out. So Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
Mike, where are the new lights going? Do you have that map?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Good.
can you open a map?
Yeah, the GIS
GIS
document.
map?
Yeah, so basically on Whitman, it'll go on the south side of Whitman, and then on Davis, the east side of Davis.
Okay.
And then it'll also include rapid flashing beacons with safer crosswalks at Whitman and Davis, and then 4th and Davis.
Were there talks of lights rose into?
Yeah, so
Is that-
we're waiting the Rose one, we're waiting to hear a grant for that. We did have an earlier grant, however, based upon earlier level engineering drawings from years ago, some stuff was there, some stuff wasn't there.
Yeah.
And because of that, it ended up really driving the cost of it up. So we're trying to backfill that with additional money, because what would have been a $500,000 project is now a $1.5 million project. So that's the story on the Rose Street
Okay.
one.
No, I just want,
Yeah.
yeah, here's. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
That's unfortunate. Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Jessup, I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to look through this, what is it called? The Southwest Davis and Whitman Street Sidewalk Improvement Project, and if you have any questions at this time.
I have, and no, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion for this resolution?
Move to adopt resolution number 24 -079, which permits city administrator to sign funding agreement from Washington State Department of Transportation for 2024 City Safety Program improvements, Southwest Davis and Whitman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Councilmember Williams, second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Second to last, and we're almost there, we have Mr. Rizzatello is going to present on the council, two funding agreements to complete construction on well number 8.
Yep, thank you. So we put in for this loan agreement with forgivable loan portion from Department of Health. There's a lot of money floating around with the infrastructure package, so we're trying to grab it. Well number 8, we already drilled the hole in the ground, so this is just for the mechanical equipment and well house and hooking it up to Majanier Road, because we'll be doing that project, which will run the line over College Avenue and the rest of the water system. So you'll see that they extended 2 agreements for the funds. Fund 1 is for about 2 million with repayment of a little north of $1 million loan, and then 970,000 is the forgivable portion, because with all this like water money, they don't it's weird, they don't give it outright as like a grant you get loan, and when the project is done they give a forgivable portion where they just write off that portion. And then the second one is for $2.1 million, similar terms. And with both these infrastructure projects, this is like a multi-generational stuff. So this will be here long after all of us, because the other wells lasted like over like 60 to 70 years. So let's hope.
Something to outlive us, huh?
Yeah.
Councilmember Jessup,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson,
Mike, this well's down by the new lift station,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Down there in that. Right,
Yep.
thanks.
Councilmember Williams.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do will last for a really long time, especially when we pave or put in wells, so it's important to think about, but I have no questions on this because I think it's great.
I think we need to go put our handprints in this cement then when we get it done, so you remember us by, right? Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion for this resolution?
I'll motion to approve resolution number 24-080, which permits city administrator to sign funding agreements number DWL 29-31-2 and DWL 30-98-5 to finish up well 8 construction.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyle. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right. You're gonna make me say this. You're gonna make me say this.
No, keep doing it. It's great.
We like him, we love him, so we want more of him. Finally, Mr. Rizzatello will brief us on the final Department of Health contract.
You guys are playing.
Wow.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
They're trying to see who's gonna, how embarrassed I can get.
Yeah. So with this last funding agreement, this is for the water tower. So this one we ended up with a pretty sweet deal. We put in for $10 million. 5.1 is loan, however, 4.85 is actually forgivable loan, so a grant portion. And then you match that on the Army Corps money we're getting of about 5 million plus earmark money, and we're pretty close. They have in the water tower fully paid for. We're about like 1 to 2 million off of it. So yeah.
All right, Councilmember Jessup,
No, thanks.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson,
Question second.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions on this item, but Emmy, could you also write the action item things? I'm just kidding, so that we have a little bit of zhuzh.
Oh, like you.
Yeah, just a little bit. Smiley flourish, some emojis. Just kidding. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right. All right. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion? Anybody want to make a motion or not motion?
Sorry, I have a hard time both seeing the motions and making sure I'm not muted. So we're on the reservoir one, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, Councilmember Williams, after all of that, I will move to approve resolution 24-081, which permits the city administrator to sign funding agreement number DWL 29313 to construct drinking water reservoir number 4.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion?
Yay, water.
All right. On that note, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, we got through those. Emmy, I gotta admit, it makes the night go, throwing a little lighthearted comedy in there. So thank you for your efforts. I truly appreciate it. Okay, next we have administrative reports. There's one report on the agenda, Ms. Boyle. Is that you?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Boyle and Ms. Garcia will enthrall us with the report. So riveting, it promises to be perfect background noise for a power nap. The recommendations from the Lodging Tax Advisory Commission.
Wow. How to follow that. Okay. So in your guys' packets, you'll find, I'm sure all of the information that you've all read through word by word, every single character. In a nutshell, as you guys know, every year we have our Lodging Tax Advisory Commission that has the incredible privilege of lodging tax dollars that we get to then use as grant funding to organizations from around the community that submit applications to help basically fund their projects and events and things like that that bring heads to beds and bring more lodging and tourism to the area. So this year we were really excited. We had what I believe to be record-breaking $79,955.61 available to fund an award, which was amazing. We had 9 applications this year, which was also a record breaker. It was super exciting to have that many people interested in our money. And we were really thrilled. We ended up with a total in requests of $94,630. So we knew going in we had to shave roughly $15,000 off. But after some reviewing each of the proposals and weighing what we believed would bring some heads to beds and kind of promote College Place and our mission with these dollars, we were able to fully fund all but 2 of the proposals, those 2 exceptions being the Koala general operating support. We still funded them, just not at full capacity. They will be receiving $2,000. And the City of College Place Refresh, Renew, Restore Welcome pamphlets, we're still funding that project, just not a complete ask. So that project will be receiving $3,000. But there is a list there of all of the proposals that we are giving to and recommending to council. So the way that these work, if there are no questions or concerns, this will, as a total dollar amount, will go into the proposed budget and council will vote to approve. If council has concerns about any of these recommendations, a single organization funding cannot be singled out. The recommendation as a whole has to be approved, or the recommendation as a whole has to be denied. So if you guys have questions on any of those, I'd be happy to answer them. And if I can't, then I'm sure I can throw Emmy under the bus and she'd be happy to do so too. So, so at this time, are there any questions?
Okay, am I missing it? But I don't see the list of recommendations.
It's in the budget. It's right, or in the-
It's, yeah, it's in the primary section.
Oh,
It's in the
it's
body
not
of
in
the-
attachment. Okay. I got you. Now that makes sense. Okay, Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
If it's a brief answer that's answerable, it says emphasis on college price on several things, which of course, granted, we appreciate that. What does that mean? There's several of them that say, hey, we're gonna do this with an emphasis on college place. We're gonna the Walla Walla with an emphasis on college place creative sector, or the Chamber of Commerce with an emphasis on college place. Do you guys happen to know what that looks like? What does that mean?
Do you want me to tell
Yeah,
them?
that's okay.
Yeah,
If it's
if you can
answerable, that's
answer
all
that
right.
nicely.
If it's not, that's fine.
Yeah, generally, so I read through all the applications, and the ones that specifically said we're gonna do X, Y, and Z in College Place, that's why I put emphasis, was that they were saying we're gonna, for example, the Walla Walla Valley Chamber, so exciting, trying to bring commercials and film here, and said that College Place actually specifically is good for that, specifically College Place. I don't know if she was trying to butter us up or what, but it was very exciting. Anyways, and so yeah, that's what that means.
I can be an extra. Councilmember Cleveland.
I was looking at the budget report, and it looks like we started 2024 with 92,000. We had revenues of 40. So we're kind of doing a spend down of 80, or I guess spend down of 40, leaving about 40.
So the way that the funding works is we take the dollars that we anticipate we will have at the end of the year, and we always keep a 20% reserve. And then after we less that 20%, that's what we fund. So after we take this year's anticipated estimated ending balance for the end of 2024, and we took out the 20% reserve, that left us with the 79,955.61. Our total funding came to 79,500, which actually gave us about $455.61 of wiggle room for those last couple months of estimate, just in case things came in a little bit different, because we just really liked round numbers.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we always take what the estimate is and shave 20% off and keep it as the reserve, just in case there was ever something that happened, or to make sure we have dollars in there for something else if we need it. So.
Was the 92,000 beginning balance, did we not fund anything last year, or was that so high?
Yeah, it was so high just because of, the collective funds that came in this year, as well as the 20% from last year, as well as, oh, no, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, that was a part of it.
There was one of last year's awardees who only ended up needing 50% of their award from last year.
Oh.
And so the way that these dollars are granted, they're not a grant award check that is issued out. The entities will spend the dollars, and then they submit reimbursement requests that show that they've spent the dollars. And so they only ended up needing 50% of their award last year. And so half of that from last year was not spent. And so it just rolls into this year. So there's been some of that as well.
And Freedom
And it's been a
Fest,
great year.
yeah, it was a great year. And also Freedom Festival, Athens actually was down on the budget by like $4,000. So she did a good job.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilmember Peterson?
I think you answered my question. The question I had before you answered that question, these funds are restricted. So in other words, I see the wording on some of these are, come back up, general operating support. So that's like, generally they can use it for whatever, correct? On
But it
those?
has to be used in ways that encourage more than 50 miles of tourism. So for example, an entity can't use it to market locally. They have to be dollars that are marketed outside of the area to try to bring people in to encourage lodging needs.
And yeah, and once again, you answered my question, is it, they submitted, it's reviewed, and then
Yes.
it's not a case of, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and each of those are reviewed. We look at the attendance of, if it's for an event, we look at the attendance of the event and what the anticipated out of the area attendees are, so that we can anticipate, is this really going to encourage tourism versus just local?
Great, thanks.
Councilmember Williams?
I don't really have any questions, except I just want to argue with the description of this, because this is like the number one thing that I brag about when I talk to people about what we do with the city and all the new cool stuff that's happening and how we're using our lodging dollars to actually make cool stuff happen in College Place. So I really appreciate what you and the committee do on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Councilmember Sherman? No? All right. Thank you for that. And thank you for all the time you put into that, because it's actually more than I realized. So thank you, and thank you for Emily for reading them as well.
Yes, and really quick, I'm so sorry, but I think we had 3 times as many applicants this year and got to spend twice as much. So it was exciting. We got to have an impact on the regional tourism.
That actually is quite cool. Little old College Place, right? All right, so there's 4 informational reports in your packet for review. If you have not yet already done so, please do it. So now we're going to move into executive session. Let's take a look.
It's going to be a minute of prep, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Do I need to read this whole governing body may hold? Okay, so go ahead and take the time while I'm reading.
Really quick, can I tell the council members what to do? The ones that are online.
Okay, yes.
Okay, council members online, I need you guys, there's a second executive session panelist link. I need you guys to get off of this session and go onto that one, and I'll meet you there. And Angie, it was great to see you.
Right. So the governing body may hold executive sessions from which the public may be excluded for those purposes set forth in RCW 42.30.110. Before convening an executive session, the presiding officer, which is myself, must announce the purpose of the session and the anticipated time when the session will